is set in motion is perpetual motion unless you break the connections, unless you change the angle that these current flows come in. You can do that in various ways. One of the fastest ways is to shift your Merkaba field in the wrong direction, your vertical axis. When you live on a planet whose axis has been forced into misalignment, it implies that that planet can't run monadic frequency at all. You'll be lucky if it could even run a lower subharmonics of base 11. When I talk about the monad, I want to refresh your memory. I'm talking about this. Remember that diagram? Now they're the universal level ones, all right? So this would be the particle universe ones. And remember, it's the spin of these that control, that literally generate the divine blueprint D12 Merkaba spirals on the universal level. And this also applies to each level of your own self coming down on the template. The monad is very important, especially to the activation of flame body, because this is where the current flows are directed. This is where you have the 𝒂 flame spinning out energy. It starts as a 360-degree thrust. It gives each of the 4 axes a 90-degree thrust, which then breaks down and becomes the 33 1/3, 11 2/3 of 45 fields that interact with each other to form the perpetual Christos spark. That fission and fusion point where the particum and the partic from these cycles of energy here continually cross through each other at the specific angles that allows them to be reformed back into partic units, which means they can become 45 charge rayons. This is a rayon generator, and once it's set in motion, it's perpetual motion unless you break the connections, unless you change the angle that these current flows come in. You can do that in various ways. One of the fastest ways is to shift your Merkaba field in the wrong direction, your vertical axis. When you live on a planet whose axis has been forced into misalignment, it implies that that planet can't run monadic frequency at all. You'll be lucky if it could even run a lower subharmonics of base 11. Now, when we look at this, I want you to remember this way up high in the sky. I mean, this is like up at the 𝒂 level. You have smaller versions of that in your body, and one of the places, the main places you have it in your body, there's actually a number of connection points. They're like arcing points throughout your shields, but I want to show you where in a second. It's all weird in here. I'm reordering my sequence again. I do that a lot sometimes. That's not going on, that's not going on either. Where'd that go? Hold on. Here we go. Now, pardon the messy, I didn't have time to straighten it up. But this, if I had time, I would have put a nice little body around it and done that, but it was the closest one I had, so I stuck them together. Now, what this shows you is a part of the anatomy we haven't shown you yet that has to do with that connection right up there. You have your own personal microscopic, microcosmic replica of the universal monad, particle universal monad, right in your own Cathara grid. If you look at, this is Cathara center 9, that's 10, that's 11, and up here is 12. There's that little area, and when we did those other things, we were dealing with the frequencies of energy that came down, the yin and the yang codes, as I call them. They were about this, but we didn't cover this very much because we hadn't gotten this information in on the monad yet. Now, this is the active feeding universal monad. This is your connection directly to the universal level of the monad, and that controls down in here where you have your Asare and you have your embodied monad. That controls the current flows to the rest of the body. That's the difference between being able to function as an eternal life system or not. Now, planets have monads and their universal connections. It's really like there's a connection all the way up the grid where the planetary monad would connect to the solar monad, would connect to the galactic monad, would connect to the metagalactic, would connect to the universal, would connect to the 𝒂. All right, this is like a set of points where the arcs can leap right down. Arcs of electrical energy that you can ride back and forth on. These are the energies that open and close. They actually are the spaces that open and close from the doors of the star crystal seals on the universal level, and also the little ones within your body. So this is the area that's known in the body as the crystal dream seed. All right, we'll show you in a little bit the area of the brain that this is located in. It's a regulatory center, and it's directly related to controlling all of the fight or flight instincts and those kind of things. But it regulates a lot more than that. It's kind of like the hidden regulator of all the glands, and like the hypothalamus gland, all of that pineal gland. When that monadic connection is shut off, certain things happen in the inner brain structure that make a misfiring of the natural electrical currents in the brain. Now, if we remember what I said about that, we just learned that when they did the shield reversals here, they literally reversed east and west. They reversed these currents in the monadic core. It cut its connection off from the universal monad, and they plugged those in to their lovely fake Metatronic blue fire sword currents. So we were sitting here like sitting ducks waiting for that blue fire sword to activate over our heads. This is why so many people just anchored it with, they might not have even heard of Metatron. But we have the ability, because we've been holding our shields and we anchored the Christos seed atom, and now because there's going to be enough of a Christos spark, which would be the 45 spark, because there are going to be grid alignments done tonight in response to the activation of that 666 creepy clock. There's going to be the natural monadic clock activation, which will bring in an Eros spark into the planetary grids, which does imply they are going to do something and rotate at least the 1/3 part of the grids, the planetary rod axis, so it comes down and comes into natural alignment instead of staying up at that funny angle where it's aligning directly with the, with the Metatronic vortices. This is just showing you organic and artificial finite life imploding Shona miasmic Merkaba fields and Shona crystal transposition filters. This, you might as well read it because it'll take a long time to read and discuss. Some of you have seen bits of these diagrams before, because these were what we needed to show you during Hetaro and Hethalon to explain what was happening with Earth's blended planetary Merkaba field and how part of it was being shoved into full tandem activation. This isn't now about the Earth. The numbers that are in here, technically, they're just illustrative right now. They go with the whole thing we talked about with the Earth. This is just to show the types, the difference between a natural one. That doesn't mean it's a good Shona field. It means, though, that it occurred from natural causes, and when a Merkaba gets enough shield, when there's enough shield coding and signet coding that begins to get reversed through misuse or through environmental conditions or whatever of your beingness while you're in density, the shield will progressively begin to spin slower until eventually you'll go through a condition called monadic reversal, which means the spin of your seed atom reverses spin. When it happens naturally, when it's not forced to happen and then made to do something else that it was never intended to do, what happens when a seed atom reverses under natural conditions, the staff breaks from the D12 at between D11 and D12. It breaks and it rotates over to the side where it's not vertical anymore, and the spirals, the parallel one that it's connected to at the seed atom, the two of them split and rotate away from each other, so they both become kind of like free radicals. And what they will do is they'll continue spinning, and the life field within them, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that you have the life field that takes place within them. Between 11 and 2 you have your trion field, between 8 and 5 you have your miage field, and within that you have your manifestation field. Anyway, when a Merkaba under natural causes goes into what's called antichristic spin, where it breaks its connection to the eka body and it can't bring any more life currents in, it will continue existing until it expends the charge that's left in its seed atom. So it will keep spiraling energy out from the seed atom and feeding its shields, which feeds the Merkaba spin. But it will start to get faster and faster and faster. The Merkaba will spin faster and faster, and the seed atom will start expending itself faster and faster and faster until eventually it has no energy left. It loses all of its thrust. It's expended it all, puffed it out into manifestation. It makes the Merkaba bloat, like compact together this way. The spirals go, and it kind of bloats in the center, and then the manifestation field, the trion miage field, puff out, and the trion miage field's reverse, where the trion field, light field, is supposed to be on the outside, flips to the inside, and vice versa. And at a certain point, the seed atom stops, the shield spin stops, and the thing implodes on itself, and all the units get released back into space dust, which are Partikai units, which go back into the unified field. That is a better outcome than what happens when you play with black hole technologies. They create what's called a tandem Merkaba that goes through this, but it's forced into a different axis alignment. So instead of spiraling this way, which creates a certain interaction between the parallel one, where their rods or their staffs push away from each other, so they push away and break apart, so they just become free radical. These are forced into axis shift this way once their seed atom reverses. And this creates what's called the solar cross forced tandem alignment between the Particum and 𝐷𝐾 systems. This can be done on a minute level with an atom, and it can be done on a massive level with a planet or a galaxy if you're really nasty and like to play big games.